Hello, and welcome back to Tokyo PM. So today I wanted the opportunity to cover something that I had seen in shared by Product School. And recently they had a really big conference where they talked about what is the current state of product management and what is the future of product management. Now, in my most recent video, I kind of tried to cover what is product management. What's the basis? And it's this famous Venn diagram. I think you can find it on Atlassian.com, which is the company that makes Jira, Confluence, and other and Trello and other project management tools. But basically, the PM role was seen to be a confluence tech sort of engineers, a UX, so customer facing user design, and also business. Business would be the finance, would be the legal and compliance, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, it, the PM role was seen to be a dot in the middle and kind of bridging between these gaps. But this was true 10 years in the US. In Japan, we're kind of like there's a concept called leapfrogging, where, for example, if you're in a society that doesn't have telephones, or let's say another society develops telephones, you don't need to reinvent telephones. You just import telephones and say, hey, we're now at the same level. And so that's a trend that I think is happening now with product management, where product management, yes, it's developed in the US and it's a way of working that's been getting more and more popular. What's happening now is that you have companies that are leapfrogging to a similar level. And so there's not as much of a gap between Japan and overseas. Now, that's not true for every company. I know that I'm generalizing quite a lot, and you might be in a company that you feel does not adopt this framework. But my perspective is that this is the direction that things are going into. And that's previously the product manager was a role that would collaborate between different components within a company, try deliver on a certain objective. But once you have the shift of a product-led organization, which is a term that was coined in 2016, where you're going, okay, well, the product manager represents the customer. And so because they represent the customer, they have the strongest voice. And this is not opinion based. The voice needs to be backed up either by UX research or either by data analytics, but they represent the customer and they're putting the customer's needs above all else. And because of that, we're going to rely on the product team to be our biggest influence and biggest game changer when it comes to what the company can accomplish. And so from early 2010s, you're looking at a shift of the product manager role to now become quite core and quite central to how a company organizes themselves. What that means is now when you work together with stakeholders, yes, you are functioning in a collaborative role, but you have more influence than you might have had previously. And because of that, now we're getting companies that go, hey, we're product led, we're product first. And so these other roles, still equally important, but they become there to support product. If that makes sense. Like you try to coalesce your company behind the product of what is the customer interacting with. That's the product that we're making. And so you try to bring everyone under that umbrella. And so the product management role itself doesn't change so much, but how you associate with stakeholders can change. So for example, rather than relying on marketing and sales to be like, hey, we're the customer facing side. And so product team who makes the product, it goes, you guys just work on a user persona. You don't need to talk to the customers. Once you have an idea of a market segment that you want to make something for, we're going to market it and we're going to get it out there. And that works. I'm not saying that doesn't work. There's many businesses that have developed themselves that way. But as there's more and more of an expectation for product managers to get closer to their customers and to understand their customers' needs and to interpret their customers' needs and bring them into the product, you're now seeing a shift between who represents the customer in a company. And that now means that when the product manager is working together with other roles, it's like, okay, UX, how do we improve this for the customer? This is a problem that we noticed in our data. And so we're trying to understand what the problem is and how do we fix it. So then they would ask the help of the UX team to work together. Or when it comes to customer service, the product team can come in and say, hey, customer service team, we notice your tools aren't maybe the best to be able to accomplish this goal for the customer. And so that's creating a pain point for the customer in this way. So what is the problem that the customer is facing, and how do we approach that in a way that also then benefits customer service? The same is also true for compliance or for legal team. So compliance and legal team, for example, they understand what is the current laws of the area that you're operating in. So for example, Japan FinTech has many laws, but they're always changing. And so compliance and legal team would come in and say, hey, this is the new law. We need to interpret it and we need to implement it into our product by this deadline. And so then the product manager goes, okay, how can we implement that in the best way for the customer as well? And so it becomes a little bit of a juggling game rather than just do this for the sake of doing it. And I think my hope is that this transition from being maybe more marketing or sales led to being more product led will allow the product to shine through, which will then drive sales. So one really good example is Free, which is Free. And that is a company that creates products for small to medium sized businesses and sole proprietors, which is like people that work for themselves. Let's say I'm an English teacher, or I'm a bakery, I run my own little bakery. Like, they create products for that user base. And so what they've done is they really try to understand, what is the user doing? What is the issue that our customers are facing when it comes to filing for taxes, when it comes to keeping track of revenue, when it comes to learning how to run a business, how to register as a business. And so they go through and they think, what is the experience that the customer is having? How can we make that easier? And because they've nailed that really well, they'll notice, actually, we don't need to put as much into marketing because, like, let's say one bakery owner starts using this system, goes, hey, it's great. They're friends with other bakery owners in the area. They say, hey, you should try out this system. And word of mouth carries your product much further. And I imagine the conversion rate is much higher than just seeing an ad on the TV, for example. And so by treating their company as product led, they've exploded. I mean, Free is a huge company at the moment, and they're doing really good stuff for Japan, and they're really unlocking the potential that people have, and that's all because they're putting their effort behind their product. Another example of product led, PayPay. PayPay has 40 million users or 50 million users now. It's huge. And this is a payment platform that only came, I think 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Don't quote me on this, but you have a new payment company come in, and it's new to the point that you still have people that are a little bit skeptical and they don't use PayPay. But the amount of places that I've gone to that goes, yeah, we accept PayPay. Now, this was a benefit of their sales and marketing team, because their sales and marketing team went out and said, we will give you, I think their starting operation was no transaction fees. Now they charge 1.5 or 2% for the merchants, but initially there was no fees. And so they would go out and say, hey, you want to use this QR code to accept PayPay, because that way you will have more customers who maybe don't have cash on hand. And so that huge sales and marketing push, alongside the fact that PayPay is creating a product that is very iterative and very dynamic and trying to cater to the many needs of the user, allows marketing to complement what the product has done and what the product has accomplished. And so I think they're also a prime example of kind of what product-led growth can unlock in this country. And I'm really looking forward to seeing this trend continue of product gaining more and more prominent within an organization. Well, I'm curious to hear what you think. Of course, I don't have experience in many companies, and I have had the opportunity to interview with some. This is also very general. So if you have any thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, see you in the next one.